Esto wasn't all that well, and his father said he knew he was a parasite and lazy. It was the new year, and he still is. There was nothing in the end. They decided to wait until Bella came before the party started. They decided to wait until Bella, so how could one start without a beautiful girl? The man who asked Bella to come to this evening was called Leo. He was very pleased to see him return with Bella. When he was with Bella he read her dreams. After Bella got married to Dino, they decided to get married when Louis became an adult. He was very worried when he saw Bella and Esto, who often chatted joyfully together on the set. When he got the new outfits, he turned out to be very expensive. Esto's siblings talk and find out that the new product is not bought by the family person. They have as many questions as he has the new outfits he wore from. Esto replied that he received a gift, and if anyone can give him this jacket, the gift, it can only be fireworks. They looked at Esto and talked about him. This feeling reminded me of the situation when he was small. When he was small, he was offended by everyone who thought he deserved such fame. He stood and told everyone not to kill Esto, for from then on he had to live in Attica and not contact people from outside. This is the reason why so far there are no friends in the city. Esto, his family, is not currently worried about him. In his heart, Esto hoped that everyone would love him, but there was no place for him to hide. He returned home and collected his things and was ready to go. He walked. He just wanted to live. On the night of the birth of the century, he left his village. It was also a dark winter time. On the night of the day he left him and Suki the little guy gave Esto a walk because it was so cold and he couldn't run. In order to leave the little boy, he decided to go to his car, and the cat Suki jumped into the car along with him and left. When he left the car, when he left the car was a long road. Someone in the car was constantly calling him interesting because Esto could sleep peacefully in cold weather. He doesn't think about the fact that he had to go. You are in the car, but he is already tired, and I want to say his name, Lena, and asked why he had to go to the city to find a job, but in fact he didn't do anything. Thought Lena advises not to think that he can. Okay, when he comes to the city nothing can happen. He had no plans and talents. His abilities don't help to protect himself, but only to protect others. As he said, Lena wanted to know what he was doing in Estonia, thought for a second that he thought he was well with animals. Knowing what they thought, maybe no one has the same ability as him, the ability to read other people's stories and thoughts were seen and heard without the desire to have such power that people would not have the environment and fangs of a human. Animals don't want to move. To throw the car to continue, Lena asked Esto to see what problems they had. Maybe they should sell these horses and buy another horse to continue on the road. Esto cannot. Lena received his desire to come and see how they thought that now they do not eat anything, nor move in this situation. In the cold season, the food looked at the state of the horse in front of the surprised eyes of the owner of the farmer. After a while, he heard the thoughts of these horses in the depths of the forest. There was something more than a horse and with long fangs, but a white elf with eyes in the blood. If they were attacked, then there would be dire consequences for these horses. This is to warn the group about the dangers of Landyland. I thought about long fangs with white gentlemen, and you know what a big beast that can only be found in the snowy mountains. When the people who live here began to look for it in white and red mammals, information about him, she was a rare but capable creature here. Teacher Courage thought, what is she? Just a monster, not a monster. What are they afraid of? Found out that the horses didn't move, so they had no choice. Lena threw Esto into the woods just in case he needed a translator. Esto knew from the horses that their opponent was scarier than a white elf. It may be a ferocious beast. He thought why he left the village to live like this and why he had to. The participants of this expedition did not say in detail about their ability because they simply needed to be simply needed. I know that he was a man who could understand the emotions of animals. His family suffers from this ability. After that, he decides not to pay attention to other people, even those who believe that they trust him, and she went deep into the depths of the deep. Maybe I want to read more and more monsters. There was no way for everyone to read his thought in such depth to understand the emotions of a human being. Without touching them, the creature has a very strong desire if it is in a far place, but still feels them. After being killed by the monster, it was completely dangerous. Yoshio asks everyone to leave the forest because he still is. It is dangerous, but no one from the team listens. They quickly discovered that the predator of the white horned monster threatens him and his mother. The team of warriors and Lena went into battle. The body of a white horned mammal is very large. People are missing and he is still there after he fell down. Seeing that his hands had already begun to slip one day, Esto rushed to him to stop him and calm down. For some time she stopped and looked at the Esto where Lena threw him, at which point Lena threw him and the white red mammal burst into her. The warriors team decided to go out into the woods to hunt, and the warriors team decided to chase Esto at least for a little while. But the god stopped him and understood what he meant if he died only because of the snake who hurried into the forest in search of the one who killed him simply because of this white-haired monk. Before warriors, he found a deep hole in the forest. Those around were quiet. Esto believed that the Knight's Guard had not discovered this temple. He decided to go inside to find out the smell of fresh blood in the temple. The Esto that fell into the nose around Esto was an image of a white red mammal sitting in one place in the depths of the forest in which it lives. She began to feel the memory of a white hamster who once had a family of many other hamsters when she began to have a family of many other hamsters. Toddlers rescued a little girl who thought she was her mother and looked at food for her in white coats. The baby around the current temple was named below for this girl because he was as beautiful as snow. A little girl in white mammals lived in the temple until she was killed. People went to the temple to hunt animals and Jewish brothers in order to protect them. She was killed by Niju was dead and went into the forest to protect her. In the end she was left alone. This is the reason why Niju hates people and wants to attack Yoshio people. After reading his dreams he went to the side and called Nada by his name, well, and happily stared at her, thinking of her. Mom was coming back. He said that people killed his family. They were all people, but killed my mom. After he said everything for Esto, he left the temple. When he walks to the side he finds Tasuki. The cat is looking for him warm underwear from Tasuki in order to put on. Itisa want a cat with him. Help, need you in order to help you. Tasuki did not agree and tried to get out of the car, leaving Yoshio alone in order to return to the depths of the forest. Tasuki said that he is very smart and can even leave himself. He thinks that everyone will leave him later, so he can't. Tasuki asked Yoshio to go back to the car but did not hear and went into the deep depths. After some time of the cat and now after some time went into the deep depths. After some time the cat also followed by Tasuki, who transforms into his large form and then warms Yoshio who he is. On the ground lies the fact that Tatsuki that was named N1252 is a failed experimental product, so the researcher believes it is a failed experimental product, so he killed him and pulled him out. In that dead moment he was protected from Esto. He was the only one who could bring Suki back and was the only one who could bring Suki back and was the one who named the discarded experimental product for Suki. Esti smiles, thanks to the cat for being grateful to him. Thanks to him he missed the cold when he lay down to see that Niju is calm. Now her wounds were also healed, so Esto prepared for it, and now I want to go with him because I didn't want to be alone in this place. Yoshio not agreed with this. It would be dangerous and he didn't have enough power to protect his white elf, doesn't need guards. He promises to use his power. He had to protect Yoshio. He had to take him with him. He had to take him with them. They went to Galatia where they were defeated. The staff here didn't let small animals drive without a blade and looked at him when the soldiers looked at him. When they looked at him, I thought he came from the country, so they didn't know it. They very well found Yoshio with a blade to him, pulled out a white hamster and reminded him that he was illegal. In order to see him again Yoshio put a chain on his tip and on his back and on its tip and on. Esto left Niju to look for work, but everyone ignored him because he was too big and small. Also brought a huge beast. One of them taught Yoshio to go to jail to find the best job they would do. They offer you several jobs. They also accept and fulfill the requirements, so you will definitely find a job for yourself. I knew that the elf was called Ignis, and again he left the ninja here to look at the job, and the girl went outside to thank Yoshio playing Ignis where the quality of service was guaranteed. Esto said that she wanted to find a job girl. He went to him on the street to meet with the interviewer. One of those who interviewed Yoshio was his father Hark, who was his father as head of the relation part of the Ignis guild. He will usually decide if the interview is possible after he has traveled, according to his biography, but too much attention has recently been paid to the fact that human resources are not enough to look at people. And he asked a white ginger hamster next to Esto if he had the ability to read animals. He said he could read animals. His heart has the ability to read the hearts of animals that he never knows about. Heard about mages. There are a lot of capable people in this world who created magic using Manu magic or connected with elemental powers, but his strange energy that he only talked about didn't fit into any of them. In the end, Huck still accepted the gospel and gave him the task of standing in front of the house. Esto's mission when he was hit by two aggressive dogs, he went to talk to them and asked not to tell them. It seemed to me that he would not attack them. One of the bosses left the house and Esto became one of them who was sent to the Ignis guild of these dogs that he carried. They were brought in to be fighting dogs that didn't hear anyone, so either they were fools or you were really okay, but some strange ability. He led him inside the house where the fight lay. This little boy rummaged and tried to kill him. This is a rare species that is very expensive and hard to find. It was good when he first came, but this divine dog, there was no appetite even when grandpa brought him food. Baby, please don't. That's sick. It's just a little baby. Boss stood next to him and didn't know what he did. Don't do it. From his youth, he will attack people when he grows up, and that's where it hurts. He slowly felt his heart and then slowly frowned into his neck, like a fight with a heart goes fast. This bird usually lives in very cold waters, but the master covered it with a layer possessing dirt and mud. She could not breathe and died a death. The chief told Yoshio to lay out snow and water. Drake ice. Drakey is a rare bird, among which there are several types of ice, so they do not very widespread. When I knew that Esto treated his son Draco well, the master instantly gave the master He did many of the following activities, most of the work was to take care of the animals, and it was all good, felt that his ability was real, and after all the work he paid for him to leave him. Yizha left this house to hear him your thoughts about the animals that thank and say good afternoon. Return to the Ignian secret the hunter's master could not be sure of it. Help but love a heavy man, but he gave him 2 gold coins. Esto was real, then he looked for Haka warms Esto. Now he is a member of Igni. He gave him guns and guns, he gave him guns and guns, he gave him guns and guns for him to walk on work from the 3rd floor of this building. They are all shelters for members gathering, members gathering, members gathering, members. Everything is not so bad, but if he does not have a place to stay, he gives him a place to stay, especially for animals also possible, so he wants you not to worry. Tonight Hawk made a visit to the support department for work, after which I went to bed and then went to bed for blind to lie, as it made him a bit of a nostalgic feeling. She is now sure that it is better than before when he told her that she was satisfied after him. Freedom was limited and everyone looked at her, not to mention Esto, felt that the road closer was even longer. It is difficult for him to think that today he will bring him back up the mountain, but when he sleeps you can read his mind. She was glad that she followed him and was sure that she was not left alone. Instead of hating people lives when he learned to love people in those days when Esto was in prison, he received a descriptor from him. He taught his brother how to write it, but he didn't know everything. Now you understand what it is. Union. The next morning, when we met downstairs, Hark was almost aware of the Esto because he was in a construction suit. What looks so good? Hack invites everyone to Esto as a new member, but he didn't have the work to support the labor department, and of course he didn't have to maintain magic and ammo because his skills weren't enough to support it. Special elves who were waiting for a decision from their associates at a time when they did not know who exactly. In this committee, he will be elected, so the first to go to the subcommittee temporarily. He followed the girl Rosalia to prepare for preparation. For work, they were in the room one after another, asked Esto to make errands, received paper and receipt, even went in the past. In the era of gum and gum crafts, Esto bought black gum and gum for gum when they were installed. The sales girl came back to introduce the new magic orb product, the new product she was supposed to buy. The risk of a magical orb that can read the hearts that she wanted it to try to see the color of the emotions of a human Esto. The one who gave up the ability to carefully read people's minds was the most used method. Who doesn't want to read other people's hearts, he said, as if he could read as Esto returned the purchased items back. As for the Ignis of the game, he was warned by Hawk in exactly the way he thought he would now be on special support. All requirements are based on the quality of the client. As a standard, if he received guild gold, then he was considered accepted. Succeeded, but if they dropped the counter asked to change members, it was a failure. Hawk reminded Sto that he was not happy with just looking like that, but also the question of whether he would be suitable for aristocrats if he was drawn by him. Even though his life in front of him might still be lost, so he must have been very hard. Room. In the bar, the little owner came out of the house and saw that the white elf was also very receptive to the fact that she was very careful. After she found out that Esto is the person who was sent to Ignis guild for her, she was very pleased when she found out that Esto is the person who was sent to Ignis. She was surprised that she thought this person would be unpleasant old man. His task at this moment is to find out what he needs for. Esto looked at the small dog that looked at Niju nervously. He told Niu to go back and Esto approached Hiru, stepping heavily. Saying not to harm him, Esto touches the dog and starts to look at his dreams. His dreams start from the moment he was just born because Hiru's mother was too heavy to continue childbirth, so he killed her and abandoned her because she was dead, and rushed because she was not going to go but was still hidden. They believed that among them grew small breeds of dogs that grew among them, and they believed that among them they were small in order to buy a high price, so Hiru could only eat small meals. The amount of rice every day is enough not to die. Someone came to buy them and clean them or fat and sell them at that moment. At some point, Hiru feels that this world is cold and scary. People leave their mother and throw her into one side. After death, in the next Esto, the memory of his father is remembered, who returns Ira to give her a birthday present. Sasha was holding a kettlebell in her hand, which was knocked down because the mother of the kettlebell was frightened by the desire to pull it out of her hand. She tried to convince her father that he would not let him live if Ignis guild team did not help him protect her at that moment. Dad had to throw him into real life. Sarah heard what Esto said and was deep down. Sarah just wanted to be here good for Hiru but didn't expect Hiru to be afraid of her feelings and couldn't accept what Hiru went through after her and couldn't accept that Hiru passed after her. Esto helped the girl and the dog jumped pretty toward Sarah, and the honest dude is one of the kind dogs is one of the kind. It was a bit incomprehensible, but she never touched her and never hated or loved, and although she was one of those who made the request for Ignis guild, she didn't know that Sarah had such an ability, and at that moment her father came back. He said that he didn't need to watch him, just that he returned to the garden when he heard Sarah crying and wanted to know what his strength. When he observed that his powers were being used to deal with very unusual situations, Yeshio thought and answered this question. And the ability to read the hearts of animals, he immediately offended them severely. He does not know what will happen when someone will be one of them lied towards the legs. He was very interested in seeing exactly what you were different from. What did you mean based on intelligence or essence? What about people who are monsters? If he can't answer that, then his real ability would be. It was nothing less than the thought of reading. I met many elves and heard many stories, but never saw anyone like him, especially for him in this world. There was only one thing he could do after Sarah read her brother. He thinks that a person who can read other people is a monster. Sarah takes Yeshio to leave, but her brother leaves and doesn't want to meet him. Yeshio told her, you can't read it all and you can't read it, so don't worry. After that he still wanted to take him. You talked about how people react to this, maybe that's why they hated him. What was scary? It's not Yeshio, but the thoughts of others. That Yeshio answered Niju. No matter who is who, he was offended or thought he was a monster. He didn't know anything about him lying in Attica. I was very pleased to see him alive, but a few days later Hack happily gave him a new job. He knew he would do a good job and thanked him for having been noticed earlier when he was addressed to the Lord with a special demand on him. The Jefferson Company, which owns the largest part of the gemstone trade in the city, was somehow closed due to some reason. Other jewelers asked him to find the owner of Thompson's company in order to check the cause of this. Once again I mistook Niju for a mission. Yeshio went aside to check the path to this place. The road this time is very long. The road will last up to 1 hour. Niju, I want to take it on him. He worked much faster than him. Time for a walk, but Yeshio refuses and wants to walk again. Yeshio saw the Jews. Your thoughts? He thought he could help you something else, but you refused it as you expected. It was enough not to be disappointed. He jumped on his back and thought there was nothing. Well, when I came to the address indicated in the Esho list, I constantly called, but no one answered. He thought that even if it was a business, it was his apartment, so he should not have stayed. And June waited at the door until the morning and waited until the morning when he opened the door, and Yeshio said stupidly he was thinking about cold weather. If he hadn't stopped him and left Trump, he thought he was sent by some nobles who didn't want to do anything wrong. We invite him back. Esto reads how Thompson loves his beautiful wife Tila, whom he first fell in love with. Watching her birth was like a dream, but life after birth is only painful days of waiting for the first child. The second died, and the second and third children became the cause his depression, and his wife began to suffer from depression. That's why he left the company to treat his wife and children. What is known about where he was born? Trump spoke about where he was born that Nobel, who did not guess enough about his personal life, but also came to prison to make a request, but only by looking at it. And in Esto he was weak and must be the worst member of one of the bunch of blind eyes due to the fact that he was one of the best members. Somewhere in the search for jewels he wants to know what offer brought you here and asks for help so that he reopens business. Trump invited him to his room and offered him a drink to thank him. He thought that young people often like him, like sweet things like fruit. Tequila said that his hand was to get a cup of wine and started drinking. Esho still inadequate. Tom's patiently called him laminate at such moments when he can drink and knock on them. If he can drink and other people, his thought he will have to do at least so, maybe his requirements or something will be successful in this case. For this to be successful you need to have a good connection with him, and his daughterly is very strong. Even if the whole world offered him an offer, he did not give anything. But in recent years his wife was not in good condition. After she lost her first child, she was not happy. The situation became more and more difficult when she lost her second child. Johnson said that he was not going to return to Esto's company at that moment, did not return immediately. He asked him if the wife would return and agreed to leave the house in the room he was supposed to open his own company. Trump jokingly replied no, but he understood how his wife could be let down. He himself tried many different ways. Yeshio said he would be the only one who could get his wife out of the room. He was surprised what made her throw in the room. Tom didn't believe it. How could he help his wife get rid of heart disease? When Tom reached for his confused look, the first look he read in his mind was the first thing he read in his mind. Scene where Thompson took part in the treatment of his wife. He asked her very strongly if she was cold. He took his hand and thanked the beginning of the group. Somehow Esto stopped reading Thompson's reminiscences while he whispered his voice into his own voice. If this is your power, please don't be afraid. When he looked at Yeshio, who only heard a voice in his head, in the end, Thompson trusted Yeshio with everything. He went to his wife's room and slammed the door in front of the entrance, but the hotel did not answer. She was still sitting in the room and in the chair in the window. He saw her empty feelings from the Elsadar and put his hand on her head. In exchange for him there was a great sense of calmness. Yiseo tried to use more strength to test, and then it turned out that he was a dragon. They fell into their dreams. Tom went to a strange place, not knowing where he was when he was with his wife when he was still alive. The normal evangelist explained that although this was not his intention, it was clearly in wife's memory. Teal is one of the daughters of a poor farmer. The mother died before she knew, and after growing a little bigger his father looked after her with her only 2 little sisters who needed someone to take care of you. She tried in her place to raise 2 young sons, although life is hard, but the 2 brothers constantly listen. They love her and collect a tree for her and give her flowers. As soon as he got an adult heifer and fell in love with his man named Juan. But poverty is like a draft that drowns out their happiness and even increases the amount of work but still could not borrow. In order to take care of 2 children, as well as medicine, decided to go to Juneau and does not intend to marry. She goes to the city to work. She constantly tries to do more than send me money until one day Teal met Tom, saved him after a long journey back and forth. Realizing that Teela was a good girl, he decided to propose another girl to her. In their memory they see that Juan came to her when he heard the news of the marriage. He said if she would stay with him if he killed himself. He couldn't imagine life without her, but Thale decided not to worry about what he did. It didn't matter. It doesn't matter to her if he died or not. They ended a long time ago. Hope he meets a good girl and lives well. Good life. Right after Thale left he took murder. Another man was in love with Tell, like she didn't want to know her husband. After all reasons for which she married him, it was money. After all, Stowe thinks she did it after she left. One poor farmer after him can give her valuable jewelry if his decision was influenced by money and poverty. Or maybe she will still live. Between his 2 most beloved people. Thompson didn't think about what Teal answered. That's also the person he was. The best and only thing I know is now Tom's wife, but in these thoughts she was lost in these thoughts. All the children that his wife lost had to pay for their guilt after they knew all the truth. 2 of them opened a thread in her. In the heart of this miracle happened. Teal returned to normal life and went in search of his wife. Thompson said that their wife was Lee. She didn't die. She's still alive and will be healthy in the future. Maybe we'll look into this together. When Teal died in the morning, Yiseo was also unconscious. People were worried about what they were taking. He should have looked at the doctor. The doctor looked at Yiseo, who thought that he is Esper Trump. Sure, he's right. After using the ability, this question is out of his power. It's far out of his range. Maybe it's just because he doesn't control his abilities in most cases. Good fatigue. Maybe that's enough, and try to wait a few days. He will ask, depending on his situation, if he can ask for help from an assistant. In the authoritative Gold, the nervous Nu always stood next to the bed, looking at the expression on his face. Looking at this scene with great emotion, Niju said that, looking at this, they were both sick. They were surprised that this white-tailed monkey could talk about his daughter Lee, who was still at home, and they returned back. First of all expenses will be paid by Thompson, so don't worry. He said nothing. If he needs help he should come to him. Ju didn't forget to trust him and asked about him because he was divine. Maybe he did it differently, but his wife already was healed all night. Niju sat in the bedroom worrying restlessly. After he left his life, returning to the Ignian secret, he received enthusiasm from Hark for his passionate gratitude. As he continues to complete his missions, rumors about him have also increased, and an elf with unique powers has appeared in the present. Esto received a new fiduciary application from the 6th Fabian. When Esto arrived at Sarah's house, Hiru saw him jump forward and happily kissed him on the chest. Sasha asked Yiseo what was wrong with him. Once again Yiseo asked if he wasn't afraid that he could read his heart and even come to him. He could find a secret I always wanted to hide and spread it all over the world. The conversation is over. The moment the bottler came to the door and announced that the boss was waiting for Esto on the stairs. Right after he met Esto, he asked if he knew about cactus and did not expect an answer. He continued, but here they are plants. They do not exist. It is not necessary to drink water, but if you drink like other plants they will grow and breathe. Humidity is not very high, and not very high. Humidity is not very high very much, and water and lighting should be provided in order to make the plant easier to change than he thought, depending on how he is. For the hunter, the size and condition also change. If the owner does not know its meaning, he can easily kill a tree of this kind. It is difficult to say about the fact that the tree has thoughts and the Carcius has no choice, but he has the right to choose it himself. One of the owners who will support him, he is looking for Isio to become his ward as a mentor, and also so that there is no one in this world. The department will give him an insult. The only person he had to insult was Confronting Fabian Esto, who will have the highest authority. And as an ordinary Isio wanted to know what she would do as his mentor, he replied that he would do what only he could. It would be very simple, just read the minds of those people he chose. Isio. He refused to thank him for the offer, but is pleased with his current worker place, but doesn't think so because it is so. It wasn't wrong. It would be unbelievable if he just agreed. Better for you to leave him the first time, at least now he can use you properly. He decided to give him some time. He asked people to get out his pieces and build another more beautiful corn. Isio heard the comments after the conversation. He asked someone to pull the tree so that he would return to the street again. Isio meets after his brother. Sarah said that he became a monster to him after being a white teacher. A horned mammal was taught to talk about a person. Speaking of language, he is now standing and talking to Niju. He will be interested in Niju again because he can talk about the language of a person. He pays you to buy Niju to become a pet. It is not a jewel to trade. Offered 10 gold coins and asked for it. Give them up. Too much selling. The bottom Jeremian was worried that an ordinary folk guy like him even tried to look at the Nobel. He wouldn't go there now to throw him, but instead he ignored his warning and walked around the apartment before. Just came here because he came. Having received a visit from Wiskin, he said that he should be very quick and quit Estonians to the ground. Niu loudly said not to beat. This boy is also more loyal than him. I think he will pay 30 gold coins to raise him. We will send the gold coins to prison and then ask someone to buy June and bring him to the farm. This time Eston was very worried. He said he didn't want to sell. Let's raise our voices to the same people who came to this country. The Jews sent people to attack them. 2 of them and fell on the feet of the Naju. The sound was so powerful that Fabian jumped out of windows to see what happened. Next he instantly called his son a stupid man. It was already in his hands, but he jumped up and destroyed it. All he had to do for him. Dead soldiers stand here waiting for attack orders after receiving attack orders after receiving attack orders after receiving attack orders. After receiving orders from Fabian, they went to Esto, and Nunu was instantly covered by the same thing, as Nunu was quickly covered by the great shield. And Isio looked at him with fatigue and constantly spoke of farewell, but when the soldiers were in a hurry, then said thank you. But when the soldiers hurried, something unexpected happened. Suddenly surrounded by Isio, a huge aura of power that made everyone present crying, not knowing what to do. Isio opened her hand to thank me. I don't want you to be needed. The man was thinking about that he was supposed to arrest Esto, but his gas stopped him and then threw the beak of her weapon down his throat, and then several other people once again had the same results. Fabian did not know what happened. Jeremy and fell in fear. This episode was often seen by Sarah going down the stairs. Anxious Sarah ran down the stairs. Terrified Sarah ran down the stairs. On the stairs, Fabian nervously rushed to his daughter's paw and asked if he would be pleased. Despite the fact that after that he had to accept the fact that he had to weaken himself cause in order to weaken himself. First of all, he didn't exist if they want. Jeremiah said that he is a person who did something like that and gives him a question. But it's not a request, it's a request. But it's not a request, it's a request. After you came into the transformation and accepted him, and Niu of Esto Titsuki said that it seems like he really is a real dude. A monster. He can read a person's heart and even give him his life. He killed a lot of people, but felt like he killed a lot of people, but felt like he felt even though he knew what he had done. Also, they were both dead. There was no fear and sorrow for those who hurt and threatened to return what was precious to him in the hands of Acidus and Isio. He began to say that it was impossible for someone to keep an eye on his heart to understand whether he was normal or a monster, but here's someone. Then he began to say that it was impossible even if he was a monster, and a talking monkey and a cat that turns into a tiger is not bad. A blue elf with 2 pairs of wings in an unusual form came to Ignis' secret in order to convey a requirement summon from the special support department of the guild branch. Esto Hack completely disagreed that summons were either because they were or because of the fact that the royal family or someone at headquarters believes that Seo is dangerous quality. In fact, he has been missing for 10 days, and there are rumors that there are fireworks in his house, and there are fireworks around his house. Hawk again said that Esto is not the type to kill others, but Esto, the one who was covered with ulcers, approached him and agreed to take the bus to the head of the department at the cemetery and then talk to the Actus again and talk to the Actus again. This figured out his problem. If you hate it means you hate it means you hate it means you hate it. Look at the altar and ask what was wrong. He discovered that you were in contact with Esto's altar, had the ability to read minds. He wants to read you what he thinks. Together with this guy, he didn't pay attention to him and looked at him. Sleeping, he looked at him and said he was scared. They said that the white hamster was a monster, and if he was eaten he didn't know what to do. After it ended, while speaking, he realized that he was wrong. No more sleeping with a long road to go. Isio felt that the blue boy had something to say and told him to say something. That he looked at you and needs. He was a family. It was dark. Everyone in the car began to cook. Place to stay. The blonde said that he was comfortable and more comfortable than when he had to live in Attica. By chance he remembered in the office of the head of the office where his grandfather was born. It was taken in the middle of the night to give him a yosusen nu and let him go back to sleep, he said. He said there was something around the roof, no man or animal. There was a very bad feeling about it when they came. In order to kill them, one of the men went to open the car door and informed them that the brawlers had attacked them. Niu defends Esto and asks him to stay in the car and drive to the side to check on what he said, that I should stay in the car and drive to. This is how you tried to fight. The fight was a little less, and the white elf was afraid that he just a paramedic doesn't fight anything, maybe it can help him get out of the car and find a nude. He looked at the blonde and said he didn't want to fight them. Esto's gas was, before it's cold as ice, if he doesn't fight maybe he can use the white hamster as fodder for a fight. Harpy is a very fierce foreign beast that often moves in capsules. They weren't enemies he could fight with destructive weapons. It's just that they were very different from impatient vandals like that blonde with white hair. This gentleman leaving chatting and inviting you to listen. He won't end up with a few murders either if they don't destroy him. It's better to go. When he was talking and someone noticed and attacked Esto, someone stepped aside to protect him. He was bitten in his place and before he was dead when another bunch of harpy came when he was flying. He did not know what he could endure with many satellites but tried to convince them to stay. At one point they were all alone. Esto tried to kill them but finally he told him to go back to him. Everything was okay. Everything was in the car and kept moving. Suki came to him. Look, as it was said, she is very ashamed to constantly do in her place. This is the reason that he hates humanity. Tells you to sleep a little, stop walking around like an elf, and get bitten from the monster. Esto looked at the cats. Suki and Suki. Do you no need to apologize for him? Once you're in a bad state you don't need to apologize for him first of all. She left a message about not hurting again and then left that the sun grunted again and grunted again and grunted again. Esto looked at him and found that she was already going for a walk. Nu also came to him. Congratulations to him when he heard about it, and Katsis himself was very worried about the blue and red bird when he smiled when he saw this blue and red bird, when it was also surprising if this episode was so unusual, but he quickly calmed down. What the hell could have gone after all? Could have pulled out a whole bunch of harpy with one word if that were true. If he were friends with a dragon he wouldn't be surprised by the ability to monopolize the heart and dominate others. Esto asked the actus if he needed water. He said that yesterday when Esto was injured there was a lot of blood. A flower so that a green red-haired guy appears on it next to him. He said that he had to focus on the details when an ordinary tree vomited his blood and could go outside.